Hello, hello. Good afternoon. We got an amazing, exciting next talk. It's called Troll But Verify. Security Lessons from North Korean Job Candidates. Please welcome Thiago Silva and Michael B. from Kraken. Round of applause.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So my name is Michael, and this is Thiago. We both work for Kraken, and we also support Inc., which we hope to be the secure home of DeFi. And so a lot of people have been interested about what's going on with North Korea, and I had planned on trying to, remind you that North Korea is still a threat. But luckily, things happened in the news, if you've been following, so I don't feel like I need to spend any time talking about why this is such a threat, right? They're after crypto, they're targeting them specifically, and so a lot of the hacks that happen, we imagine all of these crazy, wild, outlandish technical details, and at the end of the day, they're doing often very simple things like phishing, applying for jobs, and those are the types of things that we really set out to figure out what can we do to help secure the community, and hopefully today share with you a little bit of the lessons that we learned doing some analysis. So Kraken is part of an organization called the Crypto ISAC. It's kind of like the cabal of information sharing. We do share and partner with other centralized exchanges for the purpose of securing customers, helping make sure the community is safe. But one of the things that we often get with this group as a member is we often get hot tips from three-letter agencies where they're investigating, they have lists of emails, names, and they'll say, hey, centralized exchanges, we have a list of emails. We believe they're associated with the government of North Korea. Please do what you need to do, but here's the emails. And then we work through and go through that process. So we do get this from time to time. And often, we don't have any matches. But in this particular case, around September, October, we got a list from one of the Crypto ISAC members, from a three-letter agency, likely, that said that, okay, here's this list, and we decided to check it. So we wanted to see, does everyone have a Kraken account? No. But we found something a little bit more interesting. We actually found that they were applying for jobs to work for Inc. and other places within our organization. So you can see here, this is from our application screening thing. They actually got auto-rejected. Their resume was not so good, and we'll look at that here in a little bit. But I kind of feel bad for them. It feels like me applying for jobs where they would apply every month to different roles, regardless of their experience. So I kind of feel bad for them a little bit, but they were very, very persistent, this one particular individual. This individual's alias name, we'll call him Giovanni. So Giovanni, what we want to do is okay, so now we know this person works with North Korea. What can we learn about him, right? Let's do some information gathering, right? Let's see what they have out there on social media, on GitHub, on LinkedIn. Let's figure out what makes them tick. And so one of the weird things that we saw from Giovanni was that not only was Giovanni applying for jobs with Kraken every month to different on-chain type of roles, Giovanni was also hiring people for his team, which was very odd. Nobody really has time to do your normal job and recruit people and be all these different things. So we found that very suspicious. And the most suspicious thing of all was that they said that they were excited to work together and lead projects at Accenture. So I come from consulting before crypto. That's a huge red flag. Definitely not true. So we decided to investigate him. So here's what their resume looks like. You're probably going to see a lot more of this type of thing with AI, right? You can auto-generate a resume, and AI is kind of fallible. There's certain things that AI does that you might not think about it, but if you've used ChatGPT enough, you start seeing these trends. And so knowing that this was probably fake, we really took a more specific look at this. And some of the things that really stood out to me here, this is a real company, but it was like a startup. So tough to verify, tough to find someone to talk to. They didn't have an HR department. We could just say, hey, is this person working for you? Is this real? Is this not? But what really stood out to us was the fact that they were putting percentages on literally everything. They improved security by 40%. What does that actually mean, right? They, for whatever reason, the resume just, I guess it was a best practice. Maybe it was part of their prompt, but we found that to be a little bit silly. So we thought, what do we actually do, right? What's the point of this? What do we do with them now that we get them? Well, at Kraken, we like to do a little trolling, right? That's kind of our culture. We want to actually learn about them, what they do, how they do this, what IP addresses are they coming from, how do they get these identities, but mostly we also want to troll. And so if you've seen on YouTube Kitboga, we do have a partnership with Kitboga, who basically trolls scam artists, and we thought we would take a page from that book. It's part of our culture and drive them crazy. So here is a clip from one of the interviews that we did. One of the interesting things about this is that there appear to be multiple people on this interview. The person who originally took the call, they had a very strong Korean accent. And then, as you'll see here, there's someone completely different. And so we kind of wanted to play with them a little bit and ask them questions that we figured they really wouldn't know. But here's a quick clip from some person working with this person who is associated with the DPRK.
You're not affected by the hurricane, by the way, are you? I saw you were in Georgia. Are you doing okay with that?
I am safe right now. I am in North Georgia. I am visiting my friend there, so I am fine.
Okay, that's
I will
good.
get back to I will get back to Georgia in next week maybe.
Okay.
So I have no idea what he was talking about. The hurricane was happening, if you remember, and so this person said he was from Atlanta, and so he claimed that he was moving to North Georgia with his friend. He had no U.S. geography, so we found that to be a little silly, but a little bit comical and worth sharing. Another thing that they
from
would
your
do.
experience, is there anything that related to security in Next.js that we should be aware of?
Hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just lost your question. If you come again, please.
Yeah, so you can see here what he was doing, right? He was stalling and faking for time. You can see on his glasses popping up different windows, prompting. Likely probably had people chatting with him and telling him what to do and say. There was no drop connection, right? Everyone's connection was totally fine. The classic fake a virus attack move. He was really not that good of an interviewer. So what are some lessons and takeaways we got from this person? So originally, like I said, he joined with a different name and 2 different voices, which, unless they're demon-possessed, is usually not a good person to hire. Their responses, honestly, I was hoping to kind of learn from this mystical North Korean group, what they do and have these be super cracked out developers. It was just word salad, right? You can kind of see there, they really just memorized a few things, and that was it. They faked that bad connection. They really weren't prepared for this kind of interview, probably a function of the fact that they were just trying to get hired in any role possible, right? Like you saw, they applied for 10 different jobs in totally different departments. No knowledge of U.S. geography, like I said, North Georgia. But one really interesting thing to talk about here as well, their IP address that they used to submit and join this type of thing, it was located in London in a mobile provider. Right? There are other exchanges out there that block VPNs because they're so worried about this threat of bad guys using them. And guess what? That policy would not have even stopped this, right? They're using just a regular throwaway, probably burner type of device based in London, which, by the way, made no sense for someone in Georgia. But we didn't call them on it. But we did see that this IP address was in some of these coin blocker lists, which indicates to me that maybe it was used for other things in the past of maybe previous compromises, interesting things like that. So what was the result of interview number 1? What did we learn outside of that? Well, he actually ghosted us. I think he maybe either picked up on the fact that we were trolling him or things like that, but in true millennial fashion, he just dipped and did not say anything out. So candidate number 2, his name was Steven. And so here's an example of Steven's resume. One of the things that also you notice with AI-generated resumes is the double dash. They use double dashes everywhere. People don't really normally do that, but there's a plethora of things. I actually have a friend at Cisco. I asked him about this. He had no idea what this was, so maybe that's perfect for them to decide that they are going to pretend to work for Cisco with all this experience. But something that we'll get into in a little bit, they also said that they like movies, which I thought was a weird inclusion on their resume. So here's Steven showing what he can do.
what are the different types of cross-site scripting attack, and what could someone do if they can exploit a cross-site scripting attack vulnerability on Kraken.com?
Okay. I'm sorry. The first one was cross-site scripting, and what is the second one? Well,
If you have, if you discover a cross-site scripting attack, right? How would you make use of it, right, to exploit, users and admin or something like that?
So he did the same thing, right? He really had no idea what we were talking about with a very basic conversational security question, completely dumbfounded, stalled for time. You can kind of see the different things flash, which again was really disappointing. So we wanted to kick it up a notch, right? We want to say, okay, we kind of know their MO now. How are we going to officially troll DPRK operator? So here's what we decided. Number one, power move. Only accept interviews at 3 a.m. Pyongyang time. They didn't like that very much, but we convinced them that was the only time the team was available. And so we, just to make their lives a little bit more miserable for making all of our lives miserable. We also gave them a take-home test. We do take-home tests at Kraken. I kind of hate them, but it's a necessary evil sometimes. But we made it do this week, right? We gave them an interesting take-home test that I'll show you here in a little bit. As part of the take-home test, we actually made them have a KYC Kraken account. Because we thought, if they're dumb enough to do this, where we have all this data and they're submitting a license or passport, they deserve what's coming to them. So we thought it would be interesting if they would try that. And then, while we had the interview with them, we asked them about all sorts of US culture, the classic North Korean tests, right? Asking them about American culture, movies, sports, holiday things. Chat about motorcycles, right? He had a motorcycle designation on his license that you'll see here in a little bit. And then ultimately spend the whole interview trying to see their phone, right? Trying to see how they were connecting, what apps they had installed, if I can see, Red Star OS in the background or something crazy like that. So we had a lot of fun with them. And Thiago over here is going to go into a little bit of what we did here with Steven as a result of the test here. And there we go. So here's the test. By the way, so the test was very, very simple. A CLI app to make an API call on Kraken. But as we talked about, the key here was you need to make a new account. And we really pushed this hard, that you need to have a Kraken account and username. So we're really curious if they would actually do it, or maybe they would try and then bail, and then we can learn from that. But Thiago here will kind of walk through what we saw with Steven.
Yeah, so surprisingly, he actually submitted his ID for this. Now, we can actually see some inconsistencies with this ID, right? So this is the ID that he sent to us, and right as we see this ID, we can see that, there's some fields that are actually misaligned here. So for example, like the sex field, it's misaligned with the M, for example. Another thing, and actually here, we can see how the original Texas ID is like. So you can see that, the sex field is perfectly aligned with the MID. So this, we actually grabbed the official Texas ID, in the Texas portal for how to identify, an original Texas ID. So another thing here is his name. So you see that it is kind of like overlapping with the blue star on the background. And in the original ID, it doesn't even overlap, right? But what actually caught our attention was the ghost image. So you see there the Texas ID has two images. It has the ghost image and the big one. So if we try to actually resize the dimensions for the ghost image and then just compare with the big one, we just try to perfectly resize that. We see that it's not actually matching. So he didn't even have the effort to perfectly resize the ghost image with the big one. Now, as a comparison, this is the original Texas ID. This is the one that all people from Texas have. So this one, you can see it is perfectly aligned. If you just try to resize the ghost image with the big one, you're going to get like a perfectly resized image. Now, let's see what we got for the second part of the interview process.
Where are you today? Like, where are you located?
I'm in Houston, Texas.
In Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the weather like? How is it?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Now, not hard, not cool, just good, perfect.
Just good. Awesome.
Yeah, it doesn't look he goes outside so much. But, well, let's see another part of this interview, which is actually pretty interesting.
Your favorite Halloween movie?
A few moments later.
Just Halloween.
Oh yeah, which one? There's a bunch in that series. I love the new ones that just came out.
2,000 years later.
2018, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
If I could just jump in real quick, he actually commented at one point. He's like, "This is the strangest interview I've ever had." So yeah, he earned that one. So
well, as a Halloween fan, or actually like a horror movies fan, he sucks at it actually. So we actually collected a lot of information about this guy. So we collected a lot of insights about how he performs in the interview, what's actually his modus operandi and everything. So we tried to actually move on, right? So at the same time, what we did was, well, there's this guy called ZachXBT. So some of you might know this guy. ZachXBT is pretty famous for collecting and investigating crypto scams, providing a lot of information about how they work or how to actually recover some funds. And at this point, at the same time, he was actually investigating a list of DPRK workers. So he compiled a list of DPRK workers, and we got this list. So this list had wallet number, wallet addresses, and email addresses as well. So, we try to do what hackers do. We try to investigate all of these addresses. So what actually hackers do? Well, you just try to actually check this information on social media profiles, leak databases, try to find the same username on other public sources like GitHub, GitLab, or any other type of social media that do have usernames. And we try to look up on actually other leaked databases. So we found a lot of things actually for this user. One of his emails was on Intel X. So at some point, he probably got compromised some way. And we found a lot of accounts, different accounts. This guy was probably just registering for multiple accounts using different names, different email addresses, and even applying for different jobs. And actually, at some point, we saw that his email was actually on GitHub with the leaked credentials for different accounts. So he was probably using different accounts for GitHub as well. And we actually got a hold for his Chrome history profile. His Chrome history profile actually just got leaked as well. And we found a lot of interesting information, like he was searching for how the Russian passport works and so on. And we even found different accounts for Gmail, Protomail, recruiting websites, and so on. And we actually found out as well autofill credentials for this. So on his autofill for Google Chrome, we found a very interesting Korean name. So this Korean name, if you look at it on Google Translator, it looks like this if you translate it. And this is the name associated with North Korean hacker list. So this list got sanctioned, and we probably discovered another guy that was associated with this, US sanctions list. So some takeaways for this.
yeah, so thank you, everyone. Hopefully you found that interesting. For us, the main takeaway, don't rely on your VPN to mean hacker or the background check or all those things. Watch for social media, watch what's out there, watch for exposed data, because that hack is often not that crazy epic thing that you see. It's often a very simple thing where someone applies for a job and it's your new coworker who has admin access to AWS. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.